Hello, BookTube. This is Aaron from Aaron Read a Book or Aaron Read a Book. Just doing a bit of a reading update on what I've read after over the last week. Been an interesting mix this week because I read one very wholesome book about sort of lovely characters, and then two things about psychopaths. So it's a nice mix of the of sort of human character. Um, the first thing I read was Miss Reed's Fresh Green. Um, I've never read Miss Reed before, but I've wanted to read her for a little while because she sounds like the kind of thing I like. I like um, sort of old ladies writing about village greens, and this fits into that. So this is the first in, I think it's just called the Fresh Green series, um, uh, and it's about a little village green, and there's sort of like five or six houses around it, and it follows the characters who live there, and it also follows the characters who are a travelling fair. So there's a fair, a May Day fair on the village green, and this basically follows one day, the 1st of May, the day of the fair, and it follows the lady who runs the fair, her her grandson, and the local inhabitants. And there's sort of a couple of romances on the go that need to be resolved, and there's also a thief as well, which is the only. There are a few grumpy characters, and sort of the thief. You even feel sorry for him, really. Even that's done quite wholesomely. But I read this quite a lot on my lunch breaks at work, and I sit on the local green, um, and it was really sunny and nice. So it was sort of perfect accompaniment to my lunch breaks. And yeah, I really liked it. It's not as funny as someone like Barbara Pym, but it's just very cozy and nice, and a perfect sort of summer read. Um, so I definitely will pick up some more of these, because they are the kind of thing I like. And the writing's nice. It's not anything spectacular, but it does the job. And all the character stories get resolved. So if you just want one of those books that is very sort of simple and nice, I recommend this. That's very nice. Um, the other thing I was reading was for Shake Timber or Shake Tube. Still can never remember the correct the correct one of those two. And that was Richard the Third. So he's the first of the psychopaths. um, what I really liked about this was, even from the first act, the first scene, he he announces that he is the villain and he is plotting. Uh, and what was quite good as well is because I've just recently read The Hollow Crown by Dan Brown. Dan Brown? Not Dan Brown. Dan Jones. The history of the War of the Roses. And I also read a Philippa Gregory about Elizabeth Woodville. So I feel like I knew a lot of the characters a lot more than I normally would with a Shakespeare history play because I've read things about them recently. And uh, Shakespeare obviously is not a big fan of Richard III, although he obviously loves writing this story about him. And in the intro, um, to this, they talk about how Shakespeare was just becoming friends with Richard Burbage, his sort of main actor, and that's why this was the first sort of non ensemble one. After the other history plays were sort of more a fairer mix of lines between the characters, this one is really a vehicle for someone to play Richard III, and obviously Richard Burbage was his friend, and he was writing this play for him to play basically. So it's just a great character. Um, uh, yeah, he's obviously not a fan of Richard III though. In that of um, he's writing at the time of Elizabeth, his her grandfather kills Richard III at the end of this book. So it's very much um, through a Tudor lens, but I think most historians agree that Richard III was a bit of a baddie. But it's great fun following the baddie. You sort of want him to win as well. It's weird because he's so open and brash about what he's doing, and he's always turning to the camera um, and telling you uh, uh, what he's doing. You can't help but sort of get on board with the plots. Super bloody play this. They're like everyone dies in it, but that's true to history. If you read the about the War of the Roses, and the kings that don't lop everyone's head off seem to be the ones that get deposed during the War of the Roses. Um, but yeah, I loved this. I think it's my favorite history play I've read so far. But I always think that as soon as I've read a Shakespeare play, I'm like, oh, that's my new favorite. But it's just because I don't remember the other ones as well. But I really enjoyed that. And then um, the second psychopath I read about was a graphic novel, and I don't read very much graphic novels, and that was Batman: The Killing Joke, written by Alan Moore and illustrated by Brian Boland. And this is like a revised illustration that Brian Boland's done. Um, yeah, I don't the only sort of superhero-y graphic novel I've ever read before was The Watchmen, which is also Alan Moore, and maybe Brian Boland as well did that one. I'm not 100% sure, um, but this is very short. It's like 66 pages. My edition was, um, and it's just the origin story of the Joker. The artwork is really like I love the artwork in this, and I'm not a good judge obviously because I haven't got much experience with it, but I thought it was really good. I enjoyed the origin story as well. I thought the only bit I didn't really like was the explanation for sort of the physical look of the Joker. So that the reason why the sort of emotional or insanity of the Joker happens is quite believable and understandable, but the actual physical change of his look is weird to me because the way it's described is it doesn't make sense to me. But it was good fun. I'm might try and get into more graphic novels. I've read sort of some other ones that weren't superhero that I really enjoyed. So I may dig some more. I've liked all the Alan Moore stuff so far. So maybe he's someone I should continue with. And that's basically all I've read this week. I have just started another book that's sort of a shorty, and it's a book I've had for ages, but I haven't started yet. And that's Roadside Picnic. I don't know how to say the names. Strugatsky. That's probably not right. But yeah, I know about this book because of the film that was made of it called Stalker, which I really love. It's sort of a crazy 1970s film uh, by the Russian director Tarkovsky. I think his name is Tarkovsky, and he also did Solaris and some other very strange films, but visually amazing films. And this is about there's been an alien invasion, and they've left these strange zones on the earth that are sort of almost haunted, but full of strange artifacts. And these people called stalkers go in and steal the artifacts and sell them. Um, and strange things happens in there in the zones. I also think Jeff Vandermeer was highly influenced by this in his Annihilation books. Um, but I think he maybe was more influenced by the film Stalker, or maybe even the game Stalker, because there was a very popular video game called Stalker as well, based on it. But yeah, I'll give this a go. I'll let everyone know what it's like. If you've read this or any other of their works, I think they've got more than one book in the Sci-Fi Masterworks series. So let me know if you've read anything by these guys, and have a good one, BookTube. Bye.